Hi, welcome back. In this section, we're going to talk about the A in the CAMS model, automation. Specifically, we're going to discuss configuration management. We'll look at it from a couple of different angles. We'll look at why automate at all. Why are we even going to do configuration management? We'll talk about doing some configuration management, and we'll use SaltStack as our example. We'll talk about configuration management for distributed systems, because often we're not just managing a single server, we're managing a fleet of servers. We'll talk about containers, one of the most popular new topics in DevOps, and we'll find out how they're the same or different from configuration management. And then finally, we'll look at building and running a Docker container ourselves. In this video, though, we're going to ask the question, why automate? We'll talk about why you should automate. We'll discuss Kickstart and Jumpstart, which are technologies that people have used to build machines for years. We'll talk about where they fall down. We'll discuss systems in production and how Kickstart and Jumpstart are not sufficient to be able to configure our production systems. And we'll talk about how configuration management solves the problem. So there's the question, why automate at all? Well, here we have a server and we have an operations engineer. And the operations engineer's responsibility is to manage the server. No big deal. And we can even give more servers to the operations engineer. They can do that. The company's growing. Then we can actually start adding more servers. And after a while, the rate of servers coming in is actually going to get a little bit faster. So what are we going to do? We're going to hire another operations engineer. Okay. Now I've got a lot of servers and I've got a few operations engineers and they're managing it. But what happens when the company actually really starts growing and we start hiring more developers and we start getting all kinds of new technologies? Then we're going to hire a bunch more systems administrators or operations engineers. Okay, this is starting to get a little bit weird. I'm going to be managing a lot of servers, but I'm also going to be managing a lot of operations engineers. And then I'm going to add more servers because our company's really picking up steam and we're doing really well and we're making lots of money and all the operations engineers have their hands on all the servers all the time making changes, and everybody hates their jobs because they're doing the same things over and over and over again on all these servers and they're having to keep track of what's going on. So let's get rid of that entire paradigm and look at it another way. Now when we're starting our company, we have a bunch of servers and we have teams of operations engineers to manage them. But instead of the operations engineers going around and getting on the servers and changing things, they're going to invest in automation from the beginning. So now, when we add servers, it's no big deal. And we don't actually have to hire any more operations engineers because we can use our automation to be able to manage the servers. With automation, we get benefits like consistency. We talked about one of the predictors of high performance in operations organizations and IT teams is the ability to build the same servers and build environments over and over and over again. But with automation, we get this consistency. We make sure that every time we build a server, it's going to be the same. We also get compliance. Not only when the servers are built are they the same, but they're maintained to be the same. I like to say that configuration management tools are like a compliance engine. You can report on it. You can look and make sure that every single time it's run, the servers are correct. You get repeatability, like we said. Not only with consistency are all the servers identical to each other, but anytime I want to build a server, I'm going to get the same server every single time. You get testability. We can write unit tests. We can write functional tests. We can write integration tests. We can see and make sure that when the servers are built, they're going to come out exactly like we intend them to do. Just like if we were going to do regular software, we want to write tests to make sure that our software is behaving appropriately. When we develop servers with automation, we can make sure they're going to come out appropriately as well. It saves time building. It's just faster. If I need to spin up 5 machines and I don't have to get on and do things by hand, I can build 10 machines or 20 machines and it doesn't matter. Everything goes quickly. And not only does it build quicker, But when I want to maintain things, it goes quicker as well. Say somebody comes to you and they say, I need this new piece of software installed on all the servers. Do you want to make a project plan and try to figure out when it's going to go to server A and when to go to server B and try to get a whole rollout thing? Or do you want to write the software that it takes to deploy that and then deploy that software to your configuration management system so that all your servers are brought into compliance? So one of the ways that people used to try to solve the problem of automating building of servers was this idea of Kickstart or Jumpstart. And they come from Red Hat Linux and from Solaris. And they were build tools. They were a way of using build scripts and a couple of other fancy techniques to build the same server every time. And it doesn't have to be bare metal like for Jumpstart and Kickstart. It could even be for cloud servers. We could use Chef or something like that to run on first boot and configure the server just the way we want. The problem is that when we do stuff like this, we get some of the benefits of repeatability, but we don't get the compliance and we don't get the consistency, because once the scripts are run the first time, that's the end of it. We take these servers and we set them adrift on a bit of network, and they occupy that little bit of network, and people get on and they change things. The problem is when people want to go and change things is now I have a fleet of servers. And sometimes when I have a fleet of servers, somebody wants to run an experiment. So they might take a server out of the fleet. But when I'm running my tools to actually configure everything, I now have to keep track of the fact that that server was taken out of the fleet for testing. So it's not hard. I can keep track of one server. But then there could be another server that's unavailable for something else. It could be unavailable because of a network partition that's temporary. It could be unavailable because a disk failed. It could be unavailable because it hasn't even been built yet. And we're going to make this change, but we haven't applied this change to our build scripts. So now I have to remember to go back and make this change to our build scripts so that if I build a server, then I get that. But I also might have to keep track of other servers. And okay, my first server comes back and we fix that up because I remember, but then another server goes out and another server goes out for one reason or another, and I get into this mess of trying to keep track of all the different variants. Is my server out for testing? Is my server out for a disk failure? Is my server out for being rebuilt? Is my server out for all kinds of different reasons? What's the solution to this? Well, we know the answer, right? The answer is configuration management. And these are some examples of configuration management tools that you could use to do this. And we're going to use Salt and Puppet later on as examples. So with configuration management, it's actually very different. I can have a server go away. I can have two servers go away. It doesn't matter, because when those servers come back, they're automatically brought back to the correct configuration. They're automatically brought back into compliance. And this way, I can manage tens of servers, hundreds of servers, or thousands of servers. And as long as I do my configuration management correctly, I'll know that any one of those servers is going to be in compliance with every other server. And not only that, if I lose a server and I bring a new server in, I know that that thing's going to be okay too. In the next video, we're going to talk about configuration management with SaltStack. And like I said, we'll do Puppet later. The important thing to remember is which tool we use doesn't matter. This is not a video course on configuration management. Showing things about configuration management is part of our understanding how high-performing teams practice DevOps. As Bridget Kramhout says, containers are not going to fix your broken culture. If you get too caught up in which tool is being used, you'll never master DevOps. I'll see you there.